Is it right to use our money to make friends? Is it proper? Have you tried using your money to make friends? It's either the two. If we can use our money to make friends, or we can use our friends to make money. Now, money is neutral. Money is neither good nor bad. It's amoral. It depends on the attitude of the person using it. Apostle Paul, in his letters, made a very clear statement that says it's the love of money, not money itself, but the love of money, our affection, and our attraction, so much attraction towards money, which is the root of all evil. So, money is not bad per se. But let me warn you that we have to be careful about money because money has an extra power to lure us. And if we are not careful, we will really fall in love with it. Let's just be careful that money, the more we earn, the more we see money, the more it has a strong lure and pull so that we will end up falling in love if we are not careful with the use of it. Now, it is surprising when you read the Bible that more than anything else, more than the parables that talks about heaven, hell, or even faith, Jesus talk more about money in his parables, in his sermons. So it's really surprising when you read the gospel, why would Jesus talk more about money, wealth, and resources for that matter, compared to talking about heaven or hell? You know why? Because the way we manage our resources or money is actually a reflection of our spirituality. The way we manage our money and our resources is actually a reflection of our relationship with God. Now, whether you accept it or not, money is a spiritual matter. Money is an exact index to man's true character and souls. The conversation I will have with you this afternoon has something to do with smart stewardship. So let me give a title, Smart Steward. I'll be talking about Luke 16. And in this story, again, this is one of the many parables of Jesus that it really puzzled even Bible scholars finds it very difficult to understand. William Barclay, I really admire this scholar that says this story is about a bad man's good example. In his being dishonest, Jesus or the master commended him. That really surprised many, if not the first disciples, the first hearers of Jesus. Now, the story itself was already puzzling. Then, the next 5 statements of Jesus, the more it becomes very confusing for some, or on the surface. So allow me just to share with you what I have drawn. If there's one overarching lesson or truth or principle in this story, what is it? This is the truth. If we are faithful earthly stewards, we will surely be entrusted with heavenly rewards. Whether we accept it or not, we are all stewards of God's manifold resources. Tayo po ay hindi owners. We will never own in this life. We will only be managers of what God has given to us. Our lives, our families, our children, our talents, our time, 24 hours were given to us. We manage it. And God is observing us. God is looking at us. How do you manage your time, your talent, your resources, everything? Because everything that we do is a test. Whether we'll use it as a tool to further God's kingdom. So everything that we do, we are being graded here on earth. That's why if we are faithful earthly stewards, if we are found faithful earthly stewards of God's manifold resources, for sure, we will be entrusted with heavenly rewards. So this is the overarching truth I want you to capture in every verse that I'm going to show you today. Luke 16, verse 1. There was a certain rich man, according to Jesus. Now, he was talking to the disciples. Remember? This is after prodigal son. Luke 15 is about the prodigal son, the son who went to a distant country and what? Wasted his inheritance. So he's talking about money, even in the prodigal son. He wasted his money. And then chapter 16, he talked about to his disciples, he said, there was a rich man who had a manager. As if I was listening to Jesus and saying, there was a man with 2 sons. The other one wasted the inheritance of his father. And here comes another man. There's a rich man who had a manager handling his affairs. In those times in Palestine, most of the wealthy people, they would hire stewards or managers, people who would manage their properties, because most of the time, they will be absent. So they would appoint someone to be caretakers of their lands and their properties. Jesus said there was a rich man who had a manager handling his affairs. One day, a report, I don't know, by email or maybe by text, a report came to that man, to the manager, that says the manager was wasting his employer's money. Now, this is a report, whether it's true or not. It is a report that the manager or the owner received. So the owner, right away, called his servants or his stewards and said, "What's this I hear about you? Get your report in order because you are going to be fired." So he was really, really mad because feeling cheated. I own something, I entrusted it to you, and you are wasting it. So pinatawag siya, give an account, give me a summary report of what is going on, how you're spending it. And then the manager, the steward, thought to himself, nagkaroon siya ng realization, sabi ng manager, now what? He was in a panic mode. My boss has fired me. I don't have the strength to dig ditches, and I'm too proud to beg. Meaning, maybe I'm 50 years old, maybe I'm 60 years old. I am too old to dig ditches, meaning to be a slave and to be a hard man. I cannot do that. I cannot return to a manual labor. Or I am too old and I am too proud to beg and ask for money. So this guy had a realization, and a quick realization, and said, this cannot be happening. I cannot really lose my dignity. My boss would fire me, and I don't have the strength, or I'm not that young to dig, meaning to hire myself to another boss or work in the farm or even in the field, and I'm too proud to beg. So he came up with this brilliant, very brilliant idea. Sabi nitong servant, nung steward, I know how to ensure that I'll have plenty of friends who will give me a home when I am fired. So he had this realization, and then he came up with a scheme, with a brilliant idea of preparing and securing his future. So he invited each person who owed money to his master or his employer to come and discuss the situation. I was imagining everyone were queuing. And because he was the manager, he knew all these people and they know him, and maybe he has the signet ring to transact officially in behalf of his master. So they know each other. And he asked the first one in the queue, "How much do you owe my boss?" The man replied, "I owe him 8 gallons of olive oil." In those days, properties like land, the payment, probably rent, is about the produce that you earn from that land. The manager told him, and take the bill quickly and change it to 400 gallons. The second man, "How much do you owe my employer?" And he asked the next man, "I owe him 100 bushels of wheat," was the reply. Here the manager said, "Take the bill, change it to 800 bushels. What he was doing is he was falsifying whatever transactions or whatever receipts of loan or debts. Two things are possible scenarios here. The falsifying of whatever documents or whatever record or agreement between the master and those that are the debtors. Here's the smart steward. He involved them in falsifying whatever the receipts or the agreement that was written. Take the bill, get 50% off. Two things happen. First is they will be very grateful to the smart steward. That's why really smart. Magkakaroon ng utang na loob ngayon itong mga tao. Wow, ang bait mo naman. Whatever it is, 50% is not a joke. So wow, can you imagine? They will be very grateful to this man, the manager. Secondly, anything happen, he made them as a culprit or whatever, as a part of the falsifying, that at the end of the day, worst comes to worst, he can blackmail them in his situations. Now, I do believe there were many more instances of talking to those people who are in debt to his master. But Jesus, the next verse, was actually the most surprising of all. They would not expect what Jesus said in verse 8. The rich man, according to the story of Jesus, had to admire the dishonest rascal for being so shrewd. If I was part of the 12 disciples listening to Jesus, we would not expect that the master would commend the dishonest. How can he commend the dishonest? Dinaya na nga eh. The rich man had to admire the rascal for being so shrewd. Why? he was not being, later on you will discover that he was not being commended because of his dishonesty. He was being commended because of his foresight. Foresight in a sense that this man, because of his present situation, he wanted to secure his future. He saw his future. He had the foresight, and he had the determination and the realization and the resolve to make his future better, or prepare his future, to ensure that when he is fired, he would have friends who would help him. So he was commended not for his dishonesty, but for his foresight. Now, look at the next line of verse 8. Jesus said, "And it is true that the children of the world," he was referring to the natural people who are not part of the kingdom. "The children of the world are more shrewd," smarter in dealing with the world around them than the children of the light. What is Jesus saying here? Buti pa itong mga taong walang Diyos, may foresight. Samantalang itong mga anak ko na nasa ilaw, anak ng liwanag, anak ng kaharian ng Diyos, na dapat we are smarter in handling our finances. It looks like we don't have the foresight. We are not using what God is blessing us so that we can help others and bless others, and you'll be surprised in the next several statement of Jesus, because after this, 5 loaded statements of Jesus that made it more very complicated. I concluded that there is only one lesson in this 5 statement of Jesus that says if we are faithful earthly stewards, we will surely be entrusted with heavenly reward. Look at the first lesson. Sabi ni Jesus, here's the lesson. Hindi niya sinabing, here are the lessons. Use your worldly resources. What's that? Money, wealth, whatever. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Oh, going back to my introduction, use money to make friends. As if Jesus is saying, be smart. Be a smart steward. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Why? Then when your earthly possessions are gone, who's they? Those that you make friends and those that that benefits from your resources, they will welcome you to an eternal home. So he was not limited on the earthly friends. He was actually talking about in the heavenly, that someday, when Butch dies, when you and I die, there will be a welcome committee in heaven, rejoicing, oh, thank you, welcome. And people would say, thank you, why? Because you share your resources, you use it so that others can hear the gospel and receive the grace of God. Or we will die someday, and there's no one to welcome us in the heavens, but only a sign, welcome Butch, this way. Ang lungkot naman, may araw lang, welcome, follow the sign. Mag-isa ka lang naglalakad. Why? Because when you were on earth, you were selfish. You don't have the foresight. I remember I was first year, high school. I had a classmate. I noticed that he only brings a pen and a paper. During exam, I don't see any correction, any answer. It's actually 0 in all the exam. He would not even take the exam. So I was curious. I asked him, how did you reach first year? Actually, second year, magkaklase uli kami. Third year, I was wondering, paano siya nakakapasa? And he whispered to me, it's easy lang, Boots. On finals, I would approach my teachers. Ma'am, do you need anything? You have plancha, you have my rice cooker. Because they're very, very wealthy. Nireregaluhan daw niya yung mga teacher namin. Kaya pala siya nakarating na second year. Pag third year namin, kaklase ko uli. Nagugulat ako, andito to, wala itong sagot. Hindi nakakasagot sa kanyang exam. And I also noticed, pag recess po, ang dami niyang binublow out, nililibre. And actually, isa ako doon sa nalibre niya. So, ang dami niyang pinapakain. So ako, nakikidamay na rin ako kasi may lumigilibre eh. So, he would spend and feed all of us. One day, I still remember, nagkaroon po ng riot doon sa school. Meron pong grupo ng mga gangster from another school. They are after someone or a group of people in our school. But there's just this group of gangster who were waiting outside. Po lahat ng lumalabas, talagang every student that would come out from the gate, kahit hindi ka kaaway, mapapadamay ka eh. But guess what? There's one student who walked without any bruises. And para siyang ghost na hindi man lang siya ginalaw. He passed through all the gangster, that was my classmate. Kasi pala yung mga gangster sa kabilang school, pinapakain niya, nililibre niya. So yung mga gangster sa school namin, nililibre din niya. So siya lang yung naglakad ng walang kaaway at pinalampas dahil barkada niya po lahat. When I was preparing this message, sabi ko, Even if that example is lame, it obviously benefited him. He used his resources so that someday, if he needed help, he's that person that would benefit from it. And here comes Jesus saying, how many of our children, how many of the children of light, how many are the followers of Christ that are blessed tremendously with resources, time, talent, and resources? The Lord is blessing us tremendously, but how many of us are using our worldly possessions to benefit others and make friends so that when someday, when our earthly possessions are gone, those that are beneficiary of our generosity and our giving would welcome us to an eternal home. I'm very, very sure for this church, that because of our generosity in giving to missions, someday when you go to heaven, some Myanmar, Burmese, or Indonesian would shake your hands and say, thank you, because you gave to mission, I heard the gospel. And someday someone will come to you and say, thank you. Maybe we don't know them, but thank you. Because when you were on earth, you were not selfish. You used your earthly possessions, and I was one of those who benefited. And maybe he has a flag to welcome you when you reach the eternal home. Kesa naman pagdating natin, wala man lang kahit pusa. Because all along, our resources were all for us. It will not be surprised if you read the second paragraph of chapter 16. Jesus talks about the rich man and Lazarus. Yung mayaman na mayaman, he only lured it for himself. He only hoarded it for himself. He did not share his riches. And there was that beggar outside his gate. He did not make friends. He did not use his earthly possessions so that others would benefit and win some friends. That's why when that rich man died, there was no one even to dip his finger to give him cold water when he was being tormented on the other side of the world. That's still the same. When Jesus said, use your worldly resources, he bases his teaching on the fact that what we all possess today ultimately belongs to God. And we are just mere stewards of God. It was loaned to us we manage it in behalf of God. Listen to this. The rabbis in Israel, they have this saying, the rich help the poor in this world, but the poor help the rich in the other world. It is when we share the resources that God has given to us that others benefit and we win friends for the next life that we are experiencing God's approval. True wealth does not consist in how much we keep, but how much we share. That's the principle of Jesus. And then in the next line, if you are faithful in little things, another loaded statement. If you are faithful, I am remembering the disciples were listening to Jesus. If you are faithful in little things, he was referring to money as the least of things. If you are faithful in little things, you will be faithful in large ones. But if you are dishonest in little things, maybe in other things, you won't be honest with greater responsibility. It's the same thing even in the office, di ba? You enter as a rank and file, an employee, a basic employee. You start from scratch. Maybe you're managing a table. Maybe you're managing meals. But if you're faithful in what you're doing, your supervisor would see you and slowly promote you until such time that because he watched you and he saw that you're faithful in little things, he will entrust to you greater responsibilities. We don't jump agad in a greater responsibility. Most of us, what we are doing is a test whether we will pass responsibilities. But if you are dishonest in little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibility. If I am not faithful with $100 that I receive from God, if in $100 I cannot even give to God, if I am not faithful and good, smart steward, in the $100, how will God bless me with more? Sasabihin ng Diyos, anak, yung 100 nga, hindi mo na kinaya eh. If the Lord will only bless me more, I can give. No. Actually, ito yung testing eh. Many of us experience the Lord increases and increases His blessing as we are faithful in small things, then we will be entrusted with greater responsibility. A wise and faithful use of our money is an accurate measure of our faithfulness in the greater matter of the Christian life. And Jesus continues saying, and if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches of heaven? See, you see the correlation? If we are faithful earthly stewards, we will surely be entrusted with heavenly reward. You see here, And if we are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust us with true? You see, the earthly and the heavenly, the earthly and the true wealth. What Jesus is saying here is that money is a spiritual matter. What we do with our earthly wealth is a spiritual matter. It's a spiritual reflection. It's a reflection of our spirituality. That's why money is the exact index. One writer says, it's the exact index, an exact index to a man's soul and character. We want to understand the person, the spiritualidad ng isang tao, find out how he manages his own finances. Di ba nakakahiya? Kristiyano tayo. We're supposed to be guided with the wisdom of God and the lordship of Jesus. And then the way we manage our finances, we are all failing. We're not good testimonies. Which means we are not good stewards. That's the point of Jesus. The children of the light is supposed to be smarter than the children of the world. Why? Because you have all the leverage of the wisdom of God, the Spirit of God, God's promises, and God's principle in His Word. And why are we not applying them? Tama si Martin Luther. There are 3 conversions that you and I must experience. The conversion of the heart, the conversion of the mind, and the conversion of the wallet. And that's the hardest part. Totoo yun. Money is very private. Pero how many Christians, how many followers of Jesus are failing when it comes to managing our finances, as if the Lord is not present in our lives, as if there is no wisdom from God? It means the blessings of God, yung stewardship po natin, is not because I gave my 10% to the Lord, I gave my tithe, then I can manage this. No. God sees everything. Lord, I gave na what's yours, so hands off ka na sa akin. Kaya we all fail in the way we manage our resources. Kaya bakit Kristiyano, pero bakit mas maunlad yung buhay nung hindi Kristiyano? May mga kapatid tayo, hindi ngayon tayo nagiging blessing doon sa mga kapatid natin because even our brother na sinesira natin, ikaw nga supposed to be you're a Christian but I cannot see Jesus in the way you manage your finances. Wala yung blessing and grace and favor ng Lord sa'yo. You see the irony there? That's the very point of Jesus. We're supposed to be smarter. But it doesn't follow. Doesn't follow because we're a Christian that we are good steward. No We hear stories left and right. It simply boils down because we are not faithful earthly stewards. Then tell us, how can God entrust us with heavenly reward? Our use of money is an indicator of our readiness for greater things. What you and I will get in heaven depends on how we use things on earth. And Jesus said, if you are not faithful with other people's things, why should you be entrusted with things of your own? This is very insulting. If I am renting a flat, if we cannot take care of the flat that we're renting, if we cannot even clean it or make it proper, then people say, kasi nga hindi sa'yo eh. But actually, on the other hand, people would reason out and say, akin naman to, saka na lang, hindi ko masyadong liliit, akin naman eh. The tendency, because it's yours, you take it for granted. If we are not trustworthy of other people's things, how can we be trustworthy of our own very thing? If you are not faithful with other people's things, why should you be trusted? So the issue of trust, if we are faithful earthly stewards of God's manifold resources, that's what Jesus is saying. You will surely be entrusted with heavenly reward. Jesus here is reminding all of us that everything we have belongs to God. That's the point. If we are faithful in the small things, the small tasks, that's the determination whether we are fit or unfit for bigger things. We are all familiar with verse 13. Some of us, we made this as our memory verse. No one can serve 2 masters, for you will hate the one. You will hate one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. When I was reviewing this last night, all of a sudden I realized, ano ang effect nito if I am Peter and John listening to Jesus? What's the effect of this verse? What's going on in the mind of Judas, Thomas, Bartholomew, Nathaniel? What's going on in their minds when Jesus was saying, you cannot serve 2 masters at the same time. It's either you serve God or you serve mammon, money. You can serve both. Maybe it calls for a self-examination. Maybe here comes Peter and John. What's my motive? Am I really following Jesus because of who He is? Or am I really following Him because of what I can get from Him? Because I realize when we serve God as our master, we use money to further His kingdom. If God is our master, money is our servant. It's the true and the other way around. If money is my master, then God becomes a means for me. I use God. Which one for us? Do we serve God? If we truly serve God and God is our master, therefore money and resources and worldly wealth becomes a means or God's or servants to further His kingdom. It is true in the other way. If money is my master, then God becomes, I use God for my own selfish gain. Sumusunod ba ako sa Diyos para may pogi points ako sa Lord? Am I following God? Am I reading His Word? Am I going to church so that I can gain blessings from God? Am I doing this because I'm using Him for something that I want in the end? John, Peter, and am I following Jesus so that our business, our fishing business would thrive? Because God as a master is a very exclusive master. No one can serve two masters at the same time. A slave has no time, no spare time for himself. Every moment of the day belongs to his master. Use your possession, worldly wealth, to serve people because we're only managers of God's manifold resources. Ako ba naniniwala sa Diyos dahil sa may gusto akong makuha? Sumimba ka kasi para yung prayer mo masagot. Are we using God? Or are we really following God for who He is? Well, when Jesus was saying this verse, I can imagine Judas maybe was feeling, is he talking to me? What about the cross? What about if there's persecution? Am I following Him because of my own intention? That's why the takeaway here is if we are faithful earthly stewards of God's manifold resources. Alam niyo po yan yung test eh. God is observing us how we live our lives in this world. Everything that God is giving to us, money, time, 24 hours a day, how do we manage time? Are we wasting our time? How do we manage our resources? Our talents are the gifts that God is looking at us because everything that's happening here is a test whether we're using it as a tool to further His kingdom because that's the indicator whether we can entrust us with the true riches or the heavenly reward. If we fail God for $100, how would He entrust us with more? God is interested in how we manage our finances because money is a spiritual matter. Not only money, He's interested how we manage our time. How we manage our talents, our resources, our gifts. How are we going to put it into use? How we manage our worldly wealth, money determines our heavenly reward. What we receive in heaven depends on how we use things on earth. So our heavenly reward is actually determined by our earthly steward. Kumusta tayo? We are all stewards of God. The question is whether we are smart stewards. I know one day, I'm not sure, ano kaya yung report na nakakarating sa Diyos? Oh, that your stewards on earth are wasting your resources. Ano kaya yung nakakarating kay God na report? O ano yung tingin sa atin ng Diyos? Itong anak kong ito, I blessed him so much with many things in Singapore. But he's not doing anything. He's supposed to be smarter than the world, the children of the world. Walang foresight. We don't even see itong pagpapala ng Diyos sa atin hindi forever. How am I going to use this so that I can benefit others and make friends that will welcome me to an eternal home? Remember the very words of Jesus, anything you do to the least of my brethren, you have done it unto me. You see, if we are faithful stewards, earthly stewards here, you will be entrusted with heaven. Because anything we do in using God's natural or resources to help and benefit others, making friends, so that someday when we go back to God in His eternal home, there will be people welcoming you and me for the generosity and our sacrifice and our sharing of our resources to further God's kingdom. One of these days, the day of reckoning will come when we will all be summoned by God and give a report of how we manage our resources. Young people, even if your allowance is $50, $100 a week, or even a month, the question is how we manage it. Because if we are poor manager, no matter how big amount of money is given to us, if we are poor manager, we will always be poor manager. If we are a good and smart manager, if little things, you will also be a good manager when there are bigger things entrusted to us. There are two extremes I want you to avoid. Two extremes. The first one is what we call the prosperity gospel. And the second one is the poverty gospel. These are two extremes. And both of them are lies. Both of them are lies. The first one tells us and teaches that the holy you are, the richer you become. Alam mo, magpakabanal ka at lumapit ka sa Diyos, pagpapalain ng Diyos ang business mo, and He will make you rich. That's why it's a lie, because other people in other continents, they just want to be Christians so that they will earn money and make their business better. That's wrong. You're using God as a servant. And this teaching will always misquote verses like, if you give, you gain 50-fold, 100-folds, and 1,000-folds, whatever. This teaching will always tell us that when you give, it will be pressed down, shaken together, running over, or choking. These are the verses that teach us it's a false hope. It teaches that if you are poor, God is not blessed with you. The more you read the Bible, the more blessing, the more customers will come to your business. The more you read the Bible, the more you pray, the more promotions you will experience in your career. That's what he's saying. It's a lie. We don't do these things to earn points. We don't follow God so that we will receive money, or there's nothing wrong when God answers our prayers. But that's not the intention. On the other hand, poverty mentality, what they are quoting is, the love of money is the root of all evil. I don't like money, Pastor Butch. That's the root of all evil. Blessed are the poor, for theirs is the kingdom of God. That's the other extreme. Many are interested to go this side. Why? Blessing eh. That's why many people are turning to Christ, not because of who He is, but because of what they can get and the false promises of Christianity that preaches prosperity theology. On the other hand, many are forfeiting God's manifold resources and the opportunities and the blessings of God because of embracing the poverty gospel. I don't like that, because blessed are the poor, for theirs is the kingdom of God. But Jesus is not pro and against. He's teaching smart stewardship. Whatever God has blessed you, wisely and faithfully use it. The two extremes are to be avoided. The teachings of Jesus is smart discipleship or stewardship. Deuteronomy, I'll read this to you, my final verse. Moses giving instructions to the nation of Israel, young people, the next generation is about to enter the promised land. I can imagine it's like these are fresh graduates from college about to enter the corporate world, and they will earn a lot of money and they will be successful in the new land. Moses reminded them, remember the Lord your God. He is the one who gives you power to be successful. In other translation, He is the one that gives you the strength, the wisdom to earn money, and to be prosperous in what you're doing. He is the one. Moses said, don't forget. He didn't say He is the one who makes you successful. He is the one who gives you the ability, the wisdom, the strength to earn and to make money or even be prosperous in what you're doing. Don't forget God. What Moses was trying to say, do not focus on the golden eggs. Don't forget the goose that lays those golden eggs. People are running after these eggs. But if I have the goose, then I have the egg. What Moses was trying to say is the real wealth and the true assets and real true wealth in life is God's favor. Kapag ang Diyos natuwa sa'yo, ang favor ng Diyos nasa iyo, that's the real wealth. Remember the God. He is the one who gives you the strength and the ability. Tama, hindi natin sasabihin, alam mo, magaling talaga ako, Pastor. I top my board. I'm the best in my batch. My resume is colorful. Pinag-aagawan ako, Pastor, magaling ako. No. Don't forget, He is the one who gives you the strength, the wisdom, the ability to make something for yourself. Because the real wealth and the true asset is God's favor. He is the one that enables us to earn and have wealth in this world. Let me end with John Wesley when he said, make all you can. Work is not bad. Work. Balance your work with your time of worship to the Lord, but make all you can. Kung kaya mo pang kumita. Basta you balance everything. There's nothing wrong when earning, but save all you can. Don't live as a one-day millionaire. That's our problem, mga kapatid, di ba? Parang wala nang bukas. Nawawala yung living within our means. Parang secured na yung trabaho, that everything is okay. There's nothing wrong with investment, but be very wise. Because all of a sudden, here comes the news, nagsasara yung mga kumpanya, and all of a sudden, naiwan sa'yo all the bills to pay. Unpredictable things. Save all you can. Put a margin. I can only live up to this %, and the rest, save all you can. But John Wesley said, give also what you can. Because Jesus' principle is use your worldly possessions to benefit others. Remember the smart steward who had a foresight, because life is not only here. Realize that all these things are entrusted to us. We are just stewards of God's manifold resources. Give. Hindi na sinabing give all, but give all you can. It's the question of yung kaya mo, ibigay mo yung kaya mo. Let us therefore use God's resources wisely and faithfully. I don't know what's going on with our finances, but the words of Jesus is true. We're supposed to be smarter compared to people who have no God, who are not part of the kingdom. But the reality is, that's not always the truth. Nakakalungkot minsan yung mga taong walang relationship sa Diyos in a personal way can manage themselves properly. And here we are, proud to become part of the kingdom, guided by the principle of His words and the presence of the Holy Spirit. We have all the blessings to leverage on the Holy Spirit, the promises of God, and the one who enables us to earn, the one who gives us the power to be successful. Why is it that we are ashamed of our finances? Because we don't manage it well. Remember what Jesus said, if we are faithful earthly stewards, He will surely entrust us with heavenly rewards. Because what I do today, what I do in this world, with what I receive from God, is a test whether I am fit to be entrusted with true riches. Maybe God is not involved in your finances yet. Remember Martin Luther, the conversion of the heart, the mind, and the wallet. Usually this is the last one. Because the gospel is holistic. We're not only praising the Lord, but we are mismanaging God's resources. Remember, money is spiritual. I can imagine one of these days, if our time is up, when we get to heaven, there's a welcome committee there. Nag-aabang po, saying thank you. You were not selfish when you were alive on earth. You shared. That's why I'm here. Wow, what a beautiful scenario. Smart steward.